reserves from the Arab point of view, because of the newspaper based in Kuwait. What really needs to be understood about the situation in Kashmir it requires to be seen through at least two dimensions, if not more. One of them is how does India project the issue, and how it has projected the issue all along these years. And second is the factual and realistic position on the ground. And in same continuation, what is it that we have done so far about it? If one is capable of going to this aspect of the issue, then perhaps we can understand it more clearly and more. It can be easily understood. As far as India is concerned, they have been projecting the issue as a territorial dispute between the two countries, India and Pakistan. They have been also projecting it as a fundamentalist issue. Also an issue of terrorism affected by Pakistan, and a separatist issue in the sense that there's intervention by Pakistan in Kashmir. So these are the four aspects which have been projected by India all along in order to defend its forcible occupation, unlawful and immoral forcible occupation of the Jammu and Kashmir state in violation of all international agreements. Now, India is the biggest culprit today, international culprit in the world, in the sense that it has violated all agreements. It has not respected any international agreement so far. As far as we are concerned, well, unfortunately, we have not been able to protect the issue in its appropriate sense, depending perhaps more on our own inability, and depending also on a presumption that perhaps the world in general and the Muslim community in particular would understand the issue on its own. That has not happened. So therefore, when you look at it, one finds that many things have gone by default. And India, because of its huge propaganda machine, resources at her disposal, and the political influence that it wields inside and weight of the country, has taken full advantage of these factors and has misled the entire world opinion on the Kashmir issue. But now, as you said very actually about the present situation, at the moment the Kashmiris have resorted to resistance against the repression. And the repression, when we talk of repression in Kashmir, we don't get correct, accurate reports of the repression. But whatever the reports trickle out from the Indian side, through the Indian newspapers and international news media, they are simply harrowing accounts of brutalities and atrocities which are perpetrated on the people of Kashmir, particularly the Muslims. And yet, India has been able to soft pedal the matter in almost all countries, and India also. See, what really worries most of us is to see that India has been manipulating the Muslim countries also. While on one hand she makes friends with Israel, on the other hand she befriended Muslim countries also against Kashmiris. And when you talked about the Kashmir issue, I was immediately struck by the idea that Kashmir is, of course, of paramount importance to us and in the region. But in my humble opinion, the greatest danger which is looming large and which is brewing up is in the Gulf states. Because the Gulf states have been a target of lust for power by three countries, by Iran, by Iraq, and by India. Now, Iran has been put aside by the American machinations. Iraq has been destroyed. It is now India which is left alone in the field. And it may not be very long before the Gulf states realize that they have been all strangulated by India. So my worry is more about the Gulf states than about Kashmir. Kashmir we will, inshallah, we'll be able to handle Kashmir. But the Gulf states are going to face a terrible time in a very short future to come. All these naval exercises by America, joint naval exercises, and the immediately changing attitude of the political atmosphere in and around the Gulf is very clearly suggestive of what is likely to happen. We, for example, in Pakistan, and many of us in the government of Pakistan, we all supported Kuwait without reservation. But today we feel that India is perhaps India enjoys greater advantage with the Kuwait government than we do. So this is something very strange and needs to be understood as to what is going to come in the future. If this continues, and the Muslim countries, Arab countries do not realize that they are being taken over by India, by cultural invasion, by economic invasion, leading then ultimately to political invasion. So this is what is happening there, and that causes a lot of worry to us all who have some idea of the new world order and the geopolitical situation as it is going up. However, in Kashmir, India is continuing unabated with her repressive measures, supported by Israel and supported by many others. And Kashmiris, on the other hand, they remain completely wedded to the cause of their freedom and liberation from Indian yoke, and they are putting up a very heroic struggle in resisting the Indian repression. In that, they have our full moral and political support, and there is nothing beyond that we can do at the moment. But the government of Pakistan is also committed, and they've been lending their full moral and political support. So are we in Azad Kashmir, and this has resulted in creating tremendous pressure on India, in all fields, political, moral, and economic pressure on India. But we are not, in fact, in favor of disintegration of India. But at the same time, I feel that if things continue as they are, then maybe the whole of the subcontinent will get disintegrated and fragmented. And that will create another situation in the world after the one which has been created by the disintegration of the United Soviet Union. So this is how I look at it.
So do you think Pakistan is playing satisfactory role at the world platform, different platforms?
Yes, I think Pakistan is, in the present circumstances, as we see, I think government of Pakistan is doing a heroic job. I mean, it may not be satisfactory from the point of view of expectations of the government, but pragmatically speaking and objectively, what the government of Pakistan is doing is
satisfied with the work of the Pakistani mission abroad as far as the Kashmir struggle is concerned?
Well, some of the Pakistani missions have been doing a very good job, and the others need to get up. They have to sort of reorientate or remobilize themselves. But we know that the foreign missions, our foreign missions abroad, are also not acting in isolation. They have to work in conjunction with the situation that they really come across and calculate the other day. They need quite a lot of improvement in many places.
So that's now the time of new world order. So international media, I think I saw 2 or 3 stories that Kashmir should be independent state. So how do you view this situation if it happens?
You see, it is too hypothetical a question to answer, because things have to be studied through their practical aspects, not hypothetical philosophical aspects. To my mind, this is too hypothetical, and maybe it is not acceptable to any side. That is one. Number 2 is that why should we make a departure from an internationally recognized phenomenon for all along? It is that wherever there are conflicts, and the United Nations has taken cognizance of those conflicts, and the United Nations has given a clear mandate, then there is nobody is in a position to make any departure from that. So UN is committed on Kashmir. The number of independent countries at that time, including India and Pakistan, that were committed to hold plebiscite. So the question is, where is the need to make any amendment in those resolutions? And if somebody feels, the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan and Kashmir, they don't feel that there should be any change. So if India feels that there has to be a change, let Indians say so. But they don't say so. So this question of a third party is only kite flying. It's a senseless move, whosoever is making it. Because there's nobody to make any departure, either from the scheme of partition of India or from the United Nations resolution. We have no substitute for that. So if you don't have a substitute, then who has the authority to go and spell out what should be done and what should not be done? So that's a very clear-cut position. And this is only loose talking, as they say. People have no responsibility and no accountability, therefore they talk anything that they like. But it is absolutely irrelevant.
Mr. Prime Minister, you were talking about that it's not a territorial issue. It is an issue of
right, self-determination.
Self-determination. And I think it is also an ideological issue, because the principle of Divine was based in two-nation theory. So according to that theory, Muslims and Hindus were divided to Pakistan. And
that is why, Mr. Jafri, I referred. Yes, that's why I said that the issue has to be decided with reference to 2 things. One is the scheme of partition of the subcontinent, and second is the resolutions at the United Nations. So take any one of them. Whosoever wants to take a decision, he has to refer to one of these 2 things. And we are prepared to discuss it on the basis of, with anybody, on the basis of on these 2 bases.
What your government is doing for rehabilitation of refugees?
At the moment, we are not doing anything for the rehabilitation, but we are just looking after them for the time.
I mean to say, looking
Yeah,
after
we
them.
are just looking after them, yes.
how about it if the Arab countries impose economic sanctions on India because of their...
You see, this is also a very hypothetical question. I don't know if ever the Muslim countries the Arab countries particularly will come together. If they ever did that, imposition of sanctions will result in two or three things. One is that India will have to surrender on the Kashmir issue and will have to realize that the issue has got to be resolved. Number two is that the Arab states, Middle East Muslim countries, OIC countries, will emerge as a strong entity, which they are not at the moment. And the New World Order, the concept of the New World Order demands that the OIC asserted itself and worked in unison and in coordination with each other and carved out for itself a reckonable position where it is recognized that it is an entity to be reckoned with and that it cannot just be brushed aside. So, thirdly, if that happens, this will lead to achievement of peace in the region and peace in South Asian region and in the Central Asian and Middle East region. So this will be a great achievement. And fourthly, if they remain together and try to live in peace amongst themselves and give a message to the non-Muslim world that they want to live in peace, but this will help towards the world's peace and security also. So if the countries could come together and appreciate and realize that they have a role to play like this, it will be tremendous in our geopolitics.
How will be the role of Arab countries on Babri mosque issue?
You see, the Babri mosque issue, in the first place, I feel that the Arab countries and many other non-Arab Muslim countries, they do not fully realize what the issue is. Generally, and particularly under the Indian propaganda, the issue has been presented as a kind of emotional outburst of some militant Hindus, which it is not. It is a part of the overall general plan of a great Hindu empire stretching or extending from Japan to Morocco. And this is only a beginning. Babri Mosque is only beginning. They have already claimed, some say 1,000, some say 3,000 mosques to have been built on temple sites, which is historically wrong and religiously wrong, because Islam forbids construction of any mosque on any unauthorized place, whether it is a worship place or a non-worship place. But even if there is somebody wants to build a mosque on a Muslim's property, he is not permitted to do that, not to speak of a non-Muslim's property. And it has never been done in history. But Hindus, in order to wipe out the Islamic identity in India, the Muslims, they are now planning to demolish another 3,000 mosques or 1,000 mosques on that false belief. And on the other hand, I may also tell you that a number of temples in India have been built on mosque sites. Mosques had already been demolished in history, and temples have been built on those sites. But the strange thing is, irony is that it is the Hindus who claim, which is a totally false claim. The Arab states, Muslim states, under Indian pressure and under Indian influence, they fail to see the danger which is coming up. And their reaction has only been that of a sort of a pious protest and nothing more than that.
Sir,